Chapter 8: The Bargain. That morning showed no sign of anything unusual. No distant explosions, no new columns of black smoke rising from collapsed slum districts, no familiar roars of the orcs echoing from below. There was only a strange stillness, so quiet that it made Kael uneasy, as if the ruined city itself were holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. He had just returned from a short scavenging run, an old frayed bag still slung over his shoulder and holding a few dented cans of preserved food and a bottle of filtered water with a cracked casing. As he drew closer to the collapsed wall where Aaliyah and her mother were hiding, he noticed the first irregularity. There were no light footsteps of the child running out to greet him, no familiar bright eyes peering at him through the narrow gap in the wall. Instead, there were shadows, more than one. Kael stopped before stepping over the rubble, his entire body taut like a wire pulled to its limit. His hand slid slowly toward the knife hidden at his hip, even though reason told him that if anything went wrong, he would have little chance of standing alone against a group. Then a voice rang out. "Long time no see, Kael." Low, hoarse, tinged with undisguised smugness, the voice of Garen, the man who had once led the survivor group Kael had abandoned. He stepped out of the darkness, 4 other figures behind him, gaunt, filthy, carrying an assortment of improvised weapons. Their eyes showed no surprise at the sight of Kael, only one thing: expectation. Kael flicked his gaze around the area. The exit was blocked. The higher ground was already covered. They had come prepared. "We heard you found yourself a pretty quiet place to hole up," Garen continued, walking closer, his eyes flicking past Kael's shoulder. "And it seems you're not alone." Kael said nothing. His jaw tightened. From inside, Aaliyah cautiously peeked her head out, likely drawn by the unfamiliar voices. Just a brief instant, barely a moment, but enough to make the eyes of the men light up. "That kid," Garen said, his voice dropping, carrying a kind of pleasure that made Kael's stomach clench. "Looks healthy, must be eating decently." Kael stepped forward, blocking their line of sight. "There's nothing here for you." A raspy laugh answered him. "That's fine, we don't need everything." Garen tilted his head. "We just need the girl." The air froze. "In exchange," he went on, "we'll give you food, ammunition. We'll even let you come with us if you want. How long do you think a kid can survive in this hell anyway? You know the answer." Something inside Kael's chest cracked. Not loudly, not violently, but smoldering, like a red-hot ember being crushed underfoot. He remembered Eliah's eyes when she had pushed half her ration toward him, remembered the small, trembling hand gripping his when night fell and the wind screamed through the broken walls. He had done worse things before. He had pushed others forward as bait. He had watched people die in exchange for a few more minutes of survival. But this was different. "No," Kael said, his voice low but firm, like a blade driven deep into the air. "I'm not handing her over to you." The silence lasted only a heartbeat, then shattered. Garen gave the signal. Everything happened very fast. One man lunged forward. Kael slipped to the side and slammed his shoulder into him, sending him sprawling into the rubble. A gunshot cracked from behind, the bullet grazing past Kael's ear, tearing the air apart. Kael spun, slashing his knife straight into the second man's throat before he could pull the trigger. Blood sprayed, hot and metallic. The third attacker rushed in from the side, but Kael had already seized a rusted iron bar leaning against the wall and brought it down hard on the man's temple. A dull, dry sound rang out as the body collapsed like an empty sack. Garen stumbled backward, eyes wide with fury and shock. "You're insane, Kael." "No," Kael panted, his hands trembling with adrenaline. "I just don't have anything left to lose." They collided. There was no technique, no strategy, only raw survival instinct. They rolled across shattered concrete, punching, clawing, biting, until Kael gained the upper hand, slamming Garen's head against the stone, his blade pressed tight against his throat. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Garen understood. The knife came down. When it was over, Kael stood there, breathing hard amid the bodies of people who had once been his comrades. His hands shook, not from exhaustion, but from the hollow emptiness spreading through his chest. There was no victory, no relief, only a cold silence swallowing every sound. He turned back toward Aaliyah and her mother. The girl stared at him with wide eyes filled with fear and trust at once, as if she still believed the man before her was the last safe place left in the world. Kael crouched down, resting a hand on her shoulder, his voice rough. "We have to leave. Now." They left before night had fully fallen, crossing shattered alleys and scorched buildings, carrying very little, but bearing one undeniable truth. From that moment on, Kael was no longer a man who lived only for himself. And the other survivors, the ones who had witnessed what happened that day, would not forget. The hunt had only just begun.